Hello guys and welcome back to another episode. So today we're going to talk about Frost Death Knight, and this will be a PvE guide for patch 8.1. So in this guide we will be going through the stats, Azerite traits, talents and gameplay. So after you watch this guide you should be pretty comfortable playing Death Knight, well, Frost Death Knight in PvE. So let's just go directly into it and see all the stuff. So the first page we're going through is the stats. So the first, you can say, stat that is the most important for Frost Death Knight is Mastery. Mastery is increasing your frost damage in total. So basically all your spells are dealing frost damage except the spell you have called Obliterate. Obliterate is dealing, you can say, physical damage in your damage rotation, and that will not get benefits from Mastery. But of course, Death Strike will not get benefits too, but Death Strike is not a spell you will be using in your damage rotation. In damage rotation you will be using Frost Strike, that is a frost spell, Howling Blast and Remorseless Winter, and all three spells of those are dealing frost damage. So they will get the beneficials from Mastery, and Mastery will increase your, you can say, free primary spell except Obliterate. After that it's Critical Strike, and Critical Strike is good because of you have a passive spell called Killing Machine. So you auto attack critical strikes have a chance to make your next Obliterate automatically Critical Strike. So this is good because the more Critical Strike, of course, the more crit you will get, but the more auto attacks you have that will crit will now make your next Obliterate automatically Critical Strike. So you're basically making your next Obliterate 100% crit. That is pretty genius. After Critical Strike it's Haste, and basically what Haste is making, of course, your attack damage faster. That means you have more auto attacks. Equal Killing Machine will also have a bigger proc rate, but the Critical Strike is just more important than Haste. Haste is also increasing your rune generation, so you get your runes back faster, but still Critical Strike is still much more important than Haste. Versatility is increasing your flat damage and reducing the damage you take, so versatility is really great. I would probably say in a single target fight, boss raid fight, Haste is better than versatility, but in an AoE situation like in dungeons, versatility is probably better than Haste, because the haste is not really beneficial for AoE damage, and you can say damage on a lot of trash mobs at one time. Then versatility will probably be better, but Haste is probably the best one for single target fights. But still, Mastery is number one, Critical Strike, Haste and versatility. Boom. Strength is going to be the last thing you're going to get after versatility, and it's not on the list because it's not really important to mention in this one. But strength will of course be on all your gear, but not on trinkets, but you should still follow this rotation for trinkets because the secondary stats are very important for Frost Death Knight. So this is the stats. The next thing is we're going through the Azerite traits. So the Azerite traits, I have 4 on the list this time. The first one is Treacherous Covenant. That one is pretty overpowered and really good. As long as you're over 50% health, you will deal, what is it called? You will have 345. It's scaled depend eye level, but as long as you're over 50% health, you have more strength because you play Death Knight. And I didn't forget that. I mean, Treacherous Covenant is almost in area of my videos. I know what it does. I just lost it there. But it also, when you get below 20% health, you also take 15% increased damage. So Treacherous Covenant is really good in pretty much any scenarios. But if it's a scenario where you and your raid team is pretty much testing this boss and you know you will getting some wipes, Treacherous Covenant can be sometimes bad, because if you're going to be under 50% health the whole fight, it's not really beneficial. But still, default, it's pretty good. After this one here I have Blightborn Infusion and Endless Hunger. Both of those are really great. Blightborn Infusion is giving you more Critical Strike, and as I said before, Critical Strike is number 2 stat that you want. And Endless Hunger is giving you versatility and some cell healing, but we don't care about that. The versatility increase is quite good because you have the versatility increase all the time. It's on your act gear all the time. The problem with Blightborn Infusion is that it's only sometimes you will get this increase in critical strike. So Endless Hunger is, well, if you sim it, Endless Hunger is actually over Blightborn Infusion, and Blightborn Infusion is just under it. The reason for I have the last one on the list called Frozen Tempest is an AoE and dungeon scenario. Frozen Tempest on a lot of trash mobs is winning big. It's really strong on multiple targets like trash mobs, AoE, mythic dungeons. So on a lot of targets in a big group or mythic dungeons or whatever you say, trash mobs, Frozen Tempest is 100% the king. On single target rotation, it's the top 3 that is really great, and Treasures Covenant is my favorite one. So those are the outer ring Azerite traits. Only outer ring. So let's go to the middle ring. So the middle ring is kind of default, and it's like, I probably have this almost in all my videos. So Overwhelming Power is number 1. It gives you a lot of haste, and we like that one. It has a chance to give you some procs that give you a lot of haste. Really great, really great. The next one is God Ripper. So God Ripper and Heed My Call are both really great. Deals a lot of damage, but God Ripper is best on single target where you know the boss probably is going to stay a bit long, you know, from 30% to 0. You know that's going to be more than 5 minutes, maybe more than 2 minutes. Then it's really great because it's getting this execute effect. So when the target gets below 30% health, it has more it will deal more often damage. But Heed My Call is better on trash mobs, fast bosses that dies. You know, it's pretty much better in kind of a lot of other scenarios. But God Ripper is like the king on of these two, on single target and on bosses that takes a long time to kill, because it has this execute phase. But Heed My Call is better on trash mobs, bosses with cleave, bosses that dies fast. So it's kind of which one do you want? And sometimes you cannot. Sometimes only one of them is on the gear, and then it's easy to choose. So yeah. So that was pretty much the stats and the Azerite. So the next part we go into is talents. So let's switch over to the talent screen and look on the talents. Here we are on the talent screen. So if we go to the talents, I will go through each row and explain which talent you should choose for which scenario and which one I recommend for different scenarios. So let's start with the first one. So for the first row, Cold Heart is pretty much, I would say, the meta here. It's the best one over in Inexorable Assault and Ice Talon. Ice Talon is really weak and not worth at all. Inexorable Assault can be fine, can be good, but Cold Heart is just so, it's killing it. I mean, when you get up on 20, for example 20 stacks here, it deals 20,000 damage, and if you combine it together with Pillar of Frost, that is, well, increasing your strength by 15%, oosh, it's dealing good damage. So you should combine those two together, and it's dealing so good damage. But so for the first row here, I'm recommending Cold Heart and use it in sync with Pillar of Frost. For the next row, Runic Attention and Horn of Winter are both really great. I recommend using Runic Attention. It's much easier and passive to play with, and it's really good. Horn of Winter is also great, but it's more active one that requires you to be actively using it. But I will recommend using Runic Attention. For the next row, it's pretty much up to you if you want to have you can say a AoE interruption. So if you're in a dungeon where you have to interrupt a big group of monsters, well, you can use this one and they will get blinded, disoriented. Or you can use this one here if you want to have a stun. So do you want a stun or do you want a mass interruption? For the next row, Frozen Pulse is the best one in single target, and Frostskiff is the best one every time it's over 2 mobs. So every time you get against 2 or more monsters mobs, it's better. Frostskiff is better. But Frozen Pulse is the best one for single target, and this one is better than when it's not a single target but more than one. Yeah. For the next row, it's basically up to you if you want to have a self heal or if you want to have this shield, passively shield. I mean, if you don't really want to think about this, you can just go with permafrost and it will automatically give you a shield, or you can take diff pack so you can always heal yourself, or if you want some more movement speed. On the next row, I'm recommending Frostworm. So Frostworm is dealing great damage in Mythic dungeons for trash mobs. It's great, and it also deals great damage on single target because it deals 30,000 damage. But Gathering Storm is actually also quite good. These two are Frostworms and Gathering Storm are so close. So if you want really the best answer, you should probably sim your character to see if this one or this one here will be the best one. But Gathering Storm and Frostworm is really close to another. But Gathering Storm is like, it's requiring you more of you to use it, because each rune you spend during Remorseless Winter increases damage by 10 and extends duration by 0.5 seconds. So that means when you use Remorseless Winter, you have actually to make sure that you have some runes ready, so you can spam runes while you're using Remorseless Winter. So you can say actively it's require more of you, and Frostworm is just a button you use and boom, here it goes. On this last row, Breath of Zendregosa is pretty much the best one. Ice Cap is pretty much behind. Operation is very easy to play with if you want to have an easy build, but it's still behind Breath of Zendregosa. So I would say single target wise build, I like this one here that I have on right now. And for multiple targets, I would probably go with Frostgift instead. And if I would change anything here, if I really needed some more burst on multiple targets, I'll probably go with also Glacial Advanced. But in most cases, I want to use Frostworms. So this will probably be the multiple targets build I would play with, and this will be the single target. I know there's not really big changes, but I feel like Frost Death Knight have been this like. It has been like this for a long time. It's like you have some talents you choose and rest of the talents is like no one uses them. So this is the talents I recommend for playing Frost Death Knight. So that means we have been through the stats, the Azerite, the talents, and now we just need some gameplay advices. So I will go through some of the gameplay advice. I will go through how do I like to open, what should you be looking out for when doing your rotation, and so on. So let's switch over to the dummies and test our damage. Okay. So we have some core mechanics we need to talk about on Frost Death Knights before we go into the play. So again, just to mention it, we have here killing machines. So every time we have an auto attack that critical strike, it has a chance to make our next obliterate or Frostgift critical strike 100%. Beside that, we also have Frozen Heart that increase, well, most mastery is increased on our frost damage. And we have Rim, that is like, Rim is very important. So Operate has 45% chance and Frostgift to cause your next Howling Blast to consume no runes and deal 300 additional damage. So a lot of people, when they're playing Frost Death Knight, they actually open up with casting a Howling Blast. But it's actually not recommended to start with a Howling Blast, because Howling Blast is dealing low damage. It wastes one of your runes, and it puts a damage buff over time. I know the damage buff is important, but if you use, let's say for example, and you open up 3 obliterates, you would 100%, I will promise you, you will get 100% a rhyme. So let me see here. Okay, so now I use operate 3 times. I already got it. Let's remove it and see again. I got it again. And then you can use it and it deals, what was it? Was it like, yeah, it deals 300 damage, additional damage, and it costs no runes. So don't waste your runes on opening up with a Howling Blast. I must admit I did this myself normally, but don't do it, because it's much better to use Obliterate and then get Rim. So you should pretty much only use Holding Blast every time you have a Rim active. And don't worry, you will have enough of Rim. You don't think about the damage buff, because Rim will be active all the time. So that's kind of the thing you have to, let me just get this one away. That's kind of the important thing you have to think about, that using Obliterate is like your main filler, and using Holding Blast only when Rim is active. And then we have a little discussion about your spell called Obliterate and Frost Strike. So Obliterate should be used every time you have more, you can say every time you have +4 runes, 100%. You could probably say every time you have more than 3 runes, you should always use Obliterate. Every time you have more than 70 to 90, what is it called, runic power, you should dump it on Frost Strike. So you can say pretty much the whole rotation playing as a Frost Death Knight standard is using Obliterate every time you have a lot of runes, and when you don't have a lot of runes, you get a lot of runic power, and you use Frost Strike to get all the runic power out, and then you go back to Obliterate again, and then you go back to Frost Strike, then you go back to Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate. So that is why people is calling Frost Death Knights easy. But no, they don't understand the class. It's not that easy. Because to master Frost Death Knights, you actually have to know more than that. Let me show you. You have your cooldown called Pillar Frost that increase your strength by 15%. Also, every time you use a rune in this cooldown, it gives you 1% additional strength. So that means, for example, you cooldown as Frostworn Fury, and you have a spell like Chain's Ice that deals 20k damage. Because I have the talent Cold Heart, you have to use first Frostworm's Fury and Chains of Ice with your talent here, Cold Heart, in the last 3 seconds of Pillar Frost, because Pillar Frost is dealing more damage then. Well, it increases more your strength, and then your, what is it called, Frostworm and your Cold Chain of Ice will deal a lot of more damage. So basically, to let you I will do it. So now I use Pillar Frost. It gives me 15%. Now I use runes, and you can see it pretty much, now it's on 22. So now we have 3 seconds. That means I use my Chain of Ice and my Frostworm. So in that way, Frostworm just got upgraded from 30k to 35, and my Chains of Ice got upgraded from 20k to 23k. You can see that big additional damage. I mean, it's insane. So if you use Pillar Frost correctly, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people is probably using Pillar Frost and then they use all the cooldowns they can use. That's wrong. You have to use your best cooldowns at the end of Pillar Frost. So Frost Death Knight is not about like other classes where you just have to burst a lot of things out. You just have to use all your cooldowns all the time. No. Here you have to like plan them together. Also, if you're running, I would say, the strongest Frost Death Knight talent, Breath of Centagrosa, you're going to plan this talent, because if you're using that talent, I would open my damage rotation with that talent. So how I would do that is I would get a lot of runic power first, because it's going to drain 15 runic power all the time, and then it gets faster and faster and faster. So what I would do in my opener is I would go over to this one here, spam 3 times Obliterate. Every time I get a rhyme, I would use Holding Blast. Then when I don't have any more runes back, I would use very fast Empower Rune Weapon, and then I would use Breath of Centagrosa. And when my Breath of Centagrosa is beginning, to take up the runes, the runic power, and I have to use runes to keep up the runic power, I'll just simply begin to use Obliterate. But don't waste 3 Obliterates fast after Empower Rune Weapons, because you want to be able to fill up the runic power. So this is, now I just explained how to do it. Now let me show you how we can do it. So first I will go over 3 Obliterate. I will use Holding Blast every time I can use a rhyme. Then I will go over, activate my Breath of Centagrosa, and we could use Empower, so we could use Empower Rune Weapon, and we could also use Pillar of Frost in that rotation, because Pillar of Frost will be ready very fast again to be ready for the other cooldowns we have. You can see Frost Stiff Knight, because of you playing with Breath of Centagrosa, this is your burst round number 1. Your burst round number 2 is Frostworm and Cold Heart, and then you reset and go back to Breath of Centagrosa, so you have like 2 burst rounds that you're going through. Okay, so let's start up. So I go over here, Obliterate, Obliterate, Obliterate. That's first time I didn't get a rhyme. And now I use 3 Obliterates. Now I use, well, now it's cheating because I have runes back, but because I'm talking so much. But now I use my Empower Rune, Breath of Centagrosa, Pillar of Frost, and now I'm just using my Obliterate every time I need runic power. So you can see runic power needing, rhyme, runic power, rhyme, runic power, rhyme, runic power, runic power, rhyme. Did you see how long we had Breath of Centagrosa active? That is insane. The damage is so good. I mean, okay, it was bad luck that my rhyme didn't proc, but it happens. But it's not worth to use Howling Blast without having rhyme active. But did you just see the damage? I mean, so basically 3 Obliterates, very fast. You can use Breath of Centagrosa if you want, but you could also use 3 times Obliterate, Empower Rune Weapon, Pillar of Frost, and then Breath of Centagrosa, and then it's just about holding up your runic power all the time with using Obliterate and Rhyme on your Holding Blast. Never use Frost Strike while you're having Breath of Centagrosa active, because it will use the same energy that Breath of Centagrosa is trying to use, and Breath of Centagrosa is costing less and deals more damage than Frost Strike. So that is your rotation number 1, your opener with Breath of Centagrosa. Then it's damage rotation number 2. So in round 2, you're going to get a Pillar of Frost up, so it's only have 3 seconds back, and then you're going to use Chain of Ice and Frostworm. So again, back to rotation. So use Pillar of Frost, Obliterate, Obliterate, just Frost Strike, Obliterate, Rhyme, and now because I have 3 seconds, Chain of Ice and Frostworm. That was burst round 2. Now, after burst round 2, you can see Breath of Centagrosa is pretty much ready, Empower Rune Weapon is ready, and Pillar of Frost is ready in 2 seconds. In that meantime, you're waiting for Pillar of Frost. Your damage rotation is just going to be spam Obliterate every time you can, every time you have runes, but every time you get over 70 to 90 runes, what is it called? Rune power, you have to use Frost Strike, Obliterate, Rhyme on Holding Blast, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate. I hope you understand the point. That you're pretty much using Obliterate every time you have runes for it. You're using Frost Strike. Only use Obliterate when you have a lot of runes. Only use Frost Strike when you have a lot of runic power. So it's kind of balancing. Either you have a lot of rune powers, either you have a lot of runes. And every time you have a Rhyme active, so your Howling Blast is glowing, use Howling Blast. Else, never use it. So again, let's try the Centagrosa rotation in high speed. Okay. So I will go on, Obliterate, Empower, Pillar, Breath of Centagrosa, Rhyme, Obliterate, Rhyme, Obliterate, Rhyme, Obliterate. Okay, so that was rotation number 2. Now I'm just following my normal rotation until just my normal rotation, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, just switching between them and using Holding Blast. And when my Pillar of Frost is getting ready, then we have the next burst window with Chain of Ice and Frostworm. So normally you will just do your normal rotation. So now I use Pillar of Frost, and now it's about to use a lot of runes so I can get more strength. Then in the last 2 seconds I use Chain of Ice and Frostworm if it was ready. Yeah, that is pretty much the rotation. So you have the normal rotation where you pretty much just use Holding Blast every time Rime is active. You use Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike. You know, every time you have a lot of runes, you use Obliterate. Every time you have a lot of runic power, you use Frost Strike. It's kind of balancing. And of course, your auto tax is also making that sometimes your Obliterate will 100% critical strike. Then it's of course it's important that you use it because the critical strike of your Obliterate is giving you a chance to use a free Holding Blast. But again, that will just be your normal rotation. So beside that, yeah, it is as it is. You have your Breath of Centagrosa cooldown, that is your burst window 1, and then you have your burst window 2 with your Pillar of Frost also, where you're using Frostworm and Chains of Ice. So kind of like that. And I only mentioned you use Cold Heart every time you have 20 stacks. I would use Chains of Ice, but only the first time save it for the burst window you have with Pillar of Frost, and a second time you could use it just when it's ready. Basically, you could probably also cheat. So when you're running toward the boss, you could probably use Chain of Ice and deal 20k instant. And because then when you use your normal Breath of Centagrosa rotation, and when you're ready for your Chains of Ice burst, it's probably ready again. So you could probably, you know, start with the Chains of Ice in the start that deals a lot of damage. So pretty much you can use it every time it has 20 stacks, but save one of the 20 stacks for when you have a Pillar of Frost that is low. So, and you're probably now asking, why do you never use Remoreless Winter? Remoreless Winter is not really... The problem is that it deals okay damage, but on way too long time. I mean, it deals not even as much damage as Obliterate, and it takes 8 seconds to deal that damage, and it costs 1 rune, so it's not really, I would not say it's not really worth. So Remoreless Winter is great when you're against multiple targets. Against multiple target, Remoreless Winter is great, and Holding Blast is also great because it deals both damage to them all. So in that way it's really good. And in multiple targets, Frostworm is also really great because it deals damage to them all. Breath of Centagrosa is also great on multiple targets because it deals damage to them all. And Remoreless Winter, of course, is the guard against them. So I think that covered pretty much the whole Frost Death Knight aspect. So we have been through the stats, Azerites, talents, and gameplay. So I hope this learned you a lot of things about Frost Death Knight. I hope you are able now to play it without being confused. And else, if you have any questions, leave down a comment. If you have any changes you would like to submit, so like saying that I'm doing something wrong, you can also leave down a comment and I will read it. Trust me, I read every goddamn comment I get on all my videos. Yeah, so really appreciate if you're still watching. I mean, really glad that you're still here. So thank you a lot for the support. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, I should probably say thank you guys and girls for watching. And well, leave a like if you like the video. So the only thing I have to say back is have a great evening, guys, and see you in the next guide.